HOTTOVOTE. You are listening to Watching Worst Films. We are your guide to Razzie history. We're the podcast that once covered every Razzie winning film. As you will know, if you are a frequent listener, we've burnt through all the Razzie winners, so we are back with another special, a little bit something different. Today we are talking about Jason Reitman's 2024 film, Saturday Night. Because Kyle, you're a big fan of Saturday Night Live. What did you think?
I am a huge fan, and I agree with Dan Aykroyd. Fantastic. 10 out of 10, perfect film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say no more. You know my feelings.
So, where do we start with the film? So, the premise is that it is opening night, the first night of Saturday Night Live, the famous US sketch show, and they're having to put together a show a bit not dissimilar to the Muppet Show, isn't it?
No, absolutely.
So our kid from Stranger Things is out on the street and he's rustling up people, I think audience studio members, being like, hey, come on down to 30 Rock. Is that where they are? Yeah.
Yes.
He's like, come on down to 30 Rock. We're putting on a show. And they're upset. Lorne Michaels, played by Gabriel Bell. That's his name, isn't it? The guy from
You're
the Fabelmans.
questioning me here. For their names.
Gabriel LaBelle is playing Lorne Michaels, and he's like, hey, where the fuck is our act? And so the Stranger Things kid is like looking out for a taxi, and then lo and behold, who turns up in the taxi? But it is their missing act, which is Andy Kaufman. Mm-hmm. And so Andy Kaufman gets out of the taxi, and he's played by, what's your guy from Succession? Nicholas Braun?
Yes, the one.
Yeah.
Brown,
Yeah.
something like that.
He's played by Cousin Greg, and then he gets ushered into Rockefeller Place, whatever it's called, up to the lift. And I was like, this was the first bit in the film where I was like, okay, you've lost me. The first guy, I know he just isn't working, because why is Andy Kaufman 8 feet tall?
Yes.
Yeah. And then I can't quite recall what happens after here. So do you wanna take over?
They succeed. I haven't seen the film.
What do you mean you haven't seen the film? I've seen the film. You had to do your research.
I've got to do my research on and tell you all about SNL's episode 1 from season 1. But the actual film, nothing, I'm afraid.
Okay, so sorry listeners, this bit has gone on far longer than expected. This cold open has
I
overstayed
expected the
its
transition with Kaufman. I was like, speaking of people who have played Andy Kaufman.
No.
Smoothly transition.
No, I just expect you to say I haven't seen it.
I know, I was going to wait. No, don't play chicken with me.
Okay, because if you listen frequently, you might have heard us say like, oh, we're going to cover Saturday Night. We're going to cover Saturday Night.
It's the one reason, the big one I want to come back for the podcast.
Yeah.
I've made you watch The Ladies' Man.
Yeah.
I've spoke at length of my love and hate and obsession with SNL. I think seeing Jason Reitman was exactly the reason we should come back together.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, Rachel Sennett, Cooper Hoffman, amazing, I'm up for this.
The casting at the start,
It's one of your beloved properties. I was like, okay, we need to cover this. And the original date was like middle of October, around about the time that I was going to be back in Aberdeen, so I was like, fantastic, this will work out perfectly. We'll stroll on down to the Picture House, and we will see the first movie that we covered for the podcast in cinemas, maybe. And I was like, perfect. And then it's announced UK release pushed to 2025.
Yeah, mid-January, isn't it?
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, what are we going to do? And like, well, we'll just kick the can down the road a little bit. And
do what we do best.
And in that time, I went to London Film Festival and I purchased a ticket for the surprise film, which turned out to be none other than Saturday Night, introduced by Jason Reitman himself. So, unfortunately, we can't cover it as Kyle hasn't seen it. But we're going to come back to you with that in the future.
I want to rant. I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Regardless of how it comes out as a movie, which I don't have high expectations for, a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
A lot to dissect, a lot of things that'll be interesting.
Spoilers, I really like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spoilers, do you think I will like it?
Don't think so.
And my biggest hesitation is its premise and concept.
Yeah.
Because as we know, SNL's still going on. They succeed. You know, it's Rogue One for me. I know what happens, you know. So there's no suspense that I feel like. So I feel like I'm going to be judging the impressions of the
That's
characters.
precisely why I think that you won't like it.
Yeah.
Is because I just saw it as like Jason Reitman said in his introduction, he was like, this is just like a love letter to filmmaking, putting on a show, kind of like, I saw it as like the Muppet Show of, it's just people, it's a bunch of wacky.
Yeah. But that's the thing, I have
outsiders.
the Muppets movie, Jason.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can watch this movie you want to make because it's already been made.
Yeah.
That's the redundancy of it is what I don't want to see.
Yeah, I was just completely detached from the reality, and the times that it collided for me was like, well, I know Andy Kaufman, I know he doesn't look or sound like this, or like the times that I started thinking of these being real people was when I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
As a movie, I liked it, but I think you will not because you're too close to the
It could be, and I'm going to try and
substance.
stay objective. I was looking forward to it, and then some of the feedback, the poster didn't help. I thought,
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed by the trailer,
Yeah.
but I don't like trailers, so
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting. I'm going to go in with an open mind though, and just let it be. I just don't want a masturbatory piece about Lauren and how great everyone is and how it's the funniest generation. Like there's bits I know I don't want to.
Yeah, tears on that occasionally of like just like the Beatles, that kind of like yesterday of like these were just uniquely talented people.
And then
rose to
Jason
the top
Reitman's
of
very
it.
nostalgic nowadays, so
Yeah.
So I don't know. And also Jason's last few projects have
This is
skewered me a
the
little
best film he's made since Labor Day.
Not long.
The one person in the Labor Day fan club. This is his best film since.
Well, we'll come back to it. Let's not waste any more time.
Okay, right, to get back to business. So, every year when the Razzies for the previous year are announced, we have like a little guessing game, I guess, to see who can predict the most. And this year I was victorious.
Yes.
And so, as the loser, you were consigned to a forfeit.
Yes.
And my close friend Callum MacLeod suggested the number 23, which is a film which I had not seen, but he holds very dearly, I think. And you had seen it.
I have seen
and
this,
were
yes.
less than pleased when
I
I mentioned that this was.
because it's the joy of the forfeits. You've got infinite choice. We could watch anything.
Yeah.
So I'm getting excited.
It's going to be boat trip.
Yeah,
it's going to
exactly.
be It's packed. It's going to be.
So we only get this once, and then the odds of me have seen the film, especially something like this, like junky and crap. Yeah, very.
Whoa! Have a little bit of respect.
Oh no! I enjoyed the film, and we'll talk about it. But it's a film that would easily have slipped through most of the cracks for people. Like, I think a lot of people didn't go see it. I don't think this did well.
Okay, well, without further ado,
right?
Do you want to? Okay, sorry, I'm a bit rusty here.
Yeah, no, get my budgets up.
So on a budget of $30 million.
Okay, made a profit then.
So to jump ahead a little bit, Jim Carrey's salary for this movie was, would you like to guess?
10?
Double.
Oh, okay, so 20. So 2/3 of the budget's for Jim.
Well, Jim Carrey's salary was reportedly on IMDb $23 million. So you pay Jim $23 million, and that leaves you $7 million to play with. That has to be wrong. That can't be right.
Yeah,
that's something Jim Carrey said in a talk show,
yeah,
and they've taken it sincerely. Because imagine, I know we've spoken about like Robert Downey Jr. getting like a fifth of the budget for like the next Avengers. But like, you can't spend 23 of your 30 million on Jim Carrey, and then everyone else is fighting over.
Not 2007 Jim Carrey either. 97 I would have understood, but his stock isn't at the highest. That's all market. That's publicity. It was filmed in 23 days. It's all this shit that they're throwing on top. Okay. So with 30 million budget, I'm gonna say it made 50 million.
Okay.
I think it made a profit.
It made 77.6
Jesus Christ,
million, which,
fair.
By the 6, I'm just trying to work out if that's divisible by 23. But yeah, no, that's this is the golden age of cinema, isn't it?
Yeah.
You could churn a piece of crap like this, and it made a healthy profit. Nowadays, you need to, I don't know, the Substance probably made about that, didn't it?
Yep.
Like, you can make like something genuinely good and still struggle to hit the return of number 22.
Also says though, like even despite the film, you couldn't make a film that looks like this for 30 million anymore.
No.
It would be double, triple.
Yeah, you're
the
in
price.
the volume all day.
Yeah,
baby.
like.
Yeah.
And yeah, considering most of that's on Jimbo, they would have spent the budget reasonably well. Schumacher knows what he's doing.
Yeah. So we've kind of covered our history with the film. You had seen it.
So I've seen.
Do you remember what circumstances you saw it?
I know I do. Like so, this is an Asta time.
Yeah.
This is our time of meeting.
Yeah.
And I borrowed it on DVD, probably at 0809 from an Asta colleague that we worked with.
Okay.
And
is this the guy who bought everything?
yes, it was.
indiscriminately?
And that's how I got
yeah,
all of the DVDs. And I remember watching it. I remember finishing it.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy it. And spoilers, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But my memory of it is probably the most interesting part.
Yeah.
Because I could have described this film to you pretty detailed, like 3 acts.
Yeah.
But it would have been a different film.
Yeah.
The bits I had remembered, and like the hotel room, spoilers, but was a huge part of the film for me. Like everything dynamics, I forgot huge chunks of this film, but the gist of it and the ending, I do remember that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it was a weird one. I kind of forgot about it, and again, because it's not, in my opinion, we'll talk about it. I don't think it's dreadful.
No.
And it's not the word. I don't even, in spoilers, I don't think this is a Razzie worthy winning film. But yeah, it's very, you add 15 years of my life on top and it will just get buried and confused. Yeah. But you have no experience with this film, have you?
No, I mean, it loomed large in that, like, I've seen the poster a lot. As you said, this was like a big Asda DVDs. Me and Kyle met working in the DVD department at Asda. And you know that, like, bargain bucket end? It was just there for years afterwards.
It was next to what's the Stephen King film? It's like 1816 or something. It's an adaptation. I can see it. It's like no, it's just numbers. I don't know what fucking.
I know the one you mean.
Yeah, it's just
like
numbers.
It's like a almost like keyhole.
Yeah,
skeleton key.
That's the one. Yeah. It was next to them on the shelf. I can see it.
Yeah. So I thought that this movie was more dark than it was. I was like, oh, this is like a horror movie, or like this is like a Seven type, like dark serial killer or whatever. And so the reality turned out to be something different to that.
Yep.
So, getting into our plot and our notes. So, it starts off with an opening credit sequence, opening titles, where there's just the 23 scrawled everywhere.
Yeah, it's like typewriter.
Yeah, like all work and no play makes Walter Sparrow a dull boy.
And you're doing like a elite speak where E's become 3 E's, and it's like vagues of the 2000s in there that I like that.
And they're flashing up things like there are 23 letters in the Roman alphabet. If you add up all of the digits in 9/11, then you get 23. And I was like, are we getting like a Matt Letitia biopic here? Is that what
well,
we're
do, because it's like Hitler killed himself on, and then you add it up.
If you miss out certain numbers, and maybe you throw in a couple numbers, and you reverse another couple of digits, then eventually everything gets back to 23. Like, they were like, oh, the Titanic sank the morning of whatever. Oh, and that was it. They were like, Hitler killed himself in April, and they're like, if you add up, but the year was 1945.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's spoilers throughout the whole film. When you're talking about years, you conveniently have to leave out like the decade. It's just the 23. It's the 45. It's never the full number of the year.
Yeah.
I will say, and I said it too when we were watching it, I like this. I like the little flourish.
You like numerology?
I like the creative opening credits.
Yeah.
It's something
it's a little Fincher-esque.
Yeah, it's very Bondian a bit as well. I just like a little bit of creative touch.
Naked Jim Carrey dancing.
Little silhouettes of the number 23. I know, it's something with modern movies I'd miss. I really like.
No attention span. These Zoomers, they just want to get straight to business. There's that fact about Manson.
Yes. Oh my God, yeah. All my worlds colliding, isn't it? I can't remember what the Manson fact was because I wasn't paying attention.
It was something to do with his. It's unsurprisingly, it's a date of birth.
Yeah.
Date of death.
There's 23 members of the family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I first perked up when I noticed that this film was shot by Matthew Libatique, who has shot a number of movies. I'm struggling to call any to mind at the moment, but in 2018 he had the double bill of shooting A Star Is Born and then immediately after that Venom. So that's Matthew Libatique.
And even going further, I quite like it. I think his cinematography is fine.
Yeah. Like,
very competent movie. very, very well set up and shot. All lighting was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's occasionally ugly
Yeah.
in moments, but that's because of things they've done to the image afterwards.
Yes,
It's
there's
not like
there's
poorly lit or
processing
anything.
and there's
Yeah,
editing that's hideous.
It's choices. We're in 2007. This isn't going to age bad.
Exactly.
Linkin Park are going to be around forever. Okay, so we open up with Walter Sparrow, who is working as an animal control guy, and this is when you mentioned Peanut.
Just to stay relevant.
Speaking about things aging horrendously.
Peanut the squirrel, the deciding factor in the election is brought up.
Peanut the squirrel is 23 months old.
Yeah, so the one thing you pointed out here as well is obviously it's Jim Carrey, so he's got to be quirky and a bit wacky and fun, even in the initial waiting to clock off of his job, and he gets a phone call from the dispatcher to get a dog. Like, he is still...
He's not in Ace Ventura mode, but he's still far more, like, quirked up
than I remember it.
Than most other people would play this.
I thought, in my memory, it was dead serious.
Yeah, he's
depressing.
He's like, he's in, like, I don't know, like, I guess Eternal Sunshine. He's very downbeat in that, but...
He's got his Eternal Sunshine haircut. Yeah, that's why he's got that. He's still got his 2000. Anyway, anyway.
And so his first line in the movie is, "A week ago, the only thing I thought was out of the ordinary was it was my birthday." I was like, that's not that out of the ordinary. No. Happens once a year.
Yep.
It's happened 34 times in your life, or however old he is here. But next note, this is a Christmas movie.
Oh shit!
As Walter Sparrow flashes back to a Christmas party when. Autocorrect has changed this. Still makes a move on him at the Christmas party. I think it's Sheila.
Oh, the dispatcher.
Yeah. So it's the animal control Christmas party, and let's call her Sheila. Is like, come on. She's like sexually harassing him.
She is.
Like,
like
mistletoe being like, give me a kiss, you goddamn. And he's like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And
different times.
Yeah, it was a pre-Me Too movement. Me Too moment, and
the only thing that's weird about that scene is the bathrooms for the ladies has been changed to bitches.
Yeah.
So he can call her a bitch.
Because it's it's. She's like, you know what? I wouldn't mind humping your leg, Jim.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of dog innuendo, and he's like, no, please, I've been fixed.
So she's relevant because there's a lot of dogs in this movie. So
yeah. So he gets like sent off, and this is where he encounters Ned, and he ponders whether everything.
So he gets a phone call, and it's like 1 minute. I like the line that it's 1 minute to 5, and then the dispatcher responds.
She sends him somewhere.
We agree that you're still on duty.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's a fun line. That's right. He sends him off to 2007 Chinatown.
Yeah, because he's like, is this my fault?
Yeah.
If I slept with her, maybe she wouldn't have done this.
Yep.
Because victims often blame themselves.
Yep, exactly.
Whether they could have done anything differently.
So then, we get some casual racism from Jimbo, who is weird as well because he goes to this Chinese restaurant.
It probably says a bad thing that I can't. I have no idea what you're going to say.
No, it's more he goes out the back of the Chinese restaurant to get a dog that's been abandoned. That confused me even then because I was like, oh, this isn't a dog running about causing havoc. It's just a lost dog.
Yeah.
Anyway, he prepares to catch him with the little trap. I don't know what the fuck you call it.
Yeah.
And delivers a weird monologue that do you remember any of it?
No.
So his dad and.
Oh yeah, he's doing like he's doing like an almost like, the Magnum 34 has 5 bullets. So like he's got some drawn out speech about like, well, you picked the wrong day, punk, to mess with me.
Is unintentionally funny, delivering it straight face to a dog. Yeah. Like I quite giggled at that. Anyway, the dog bites him and hightails it off to a graveyard.
Yep.
Which I don't know where that is. It's a weird location jump that I point out later.
Yeah.
And he's looking at a grave. And what happens next?
I can't recall exactly what happens next.
I think he goes home or something. No,
because we get a flashback. So we flash back, but this is all set in.
Anyway. So here's I'll tell you. I'll get some party. He's going to his birthday party, which his wife is arranged with her friends.
Yeah.
He's annoyed at that
he hasn't
any friends.
Yeah.
And the dog biting him causes him to be late.
Yeah.
To meet her with the cake.
Yeah, this is it. I don't think anything is.
I don't think anything else happened.
happened.
Anything doesn't.
It goes
isn't
straight
relevant.
from Ned to
Yeah,
this.
and then she buys a book. She spots it while she's waiting for him. It's a mysterious self-published fanzine, like you pointed out.
Yeah, it's called The Number 23, A Novel of Obsession, and it is by someone who I kept wanting to call Tracy Letts, but is in fact called Topsy Kretz. And then,
That's
on you go.
That is the start of the film.
So we learn that his birthday, like it comes up with like a super or something, revealing that his birthday is February 3rd, 23.
2-3.
And so we kind of just like gloss over the party. He is like, he's going back to his house and he's chanting, birthday sex, birthday sex.
I thought it was later.
And then he sees that his son, Walt Jr., is getting handsy with someone in their house. And so Jim, Ultimate Wingman, is like, why don't we have birthday sex on the patio? And so they hang out for like a minute, which gives Walt Jr. time to escort his lady friend out the back. And then they come in and he gives him a World's Greatest Dad mug.
Yep. Which is weird because it looked like a 7-year-old.
A handmade,
handmade with Bart
Let's not say
Homer or
this
something.
when I've made numerous handmade goods. I would kill for that kind of craftsmanship.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. And that's the start.
Yeah.
The film is all about the obsession with the book.
Yeah.
The wife reads it first.
The wife is like, yeah, I read this and this is great, and she hands him it, and yeah, like as you said, I was like, that is like a pamphlet, a zine. It's like got 23 pages would be more than I would expect, but he starts reading, and it is a story of Detective Fingerling. As he does, Jim slips into narration mode, and we get images where we're in the world of the book. And as you identified, he sounds like Ben Stiller.
He sounds specifically like Ben Stiller as Zoolander. Yeah. It's not even just casual Ben Stiller. It's very specific Zoolander.
You can call me Fingerling.
But it is weird. It's odd. Yeah, this is the film that part I want to talk about is the world within the book.
Yeah,
because it's so fucking weird. And
yeah,
I mean, for the most part, I like it at the start. And I'd said that, I was like, it's fun to be somewhere different and it's not drudgery.
Yeah.
But it quickly becomes a pain to watch because none of it's relevant, none of it's real.
Yeah,
Like it's what I'm moaning about with everything else. Like, I know I get back to real life, please.
You've seen Nocturnal Animals, haven't you? Like that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, and I like
the revenge. And that is like
I like
the high water mark of like, I'm equally gripped by the story he's writing and the world outside.
And even Nocturnal Animals, for myself, as much as I like the film, I'm not going to ever disown it. I teeter on the fictional part. I am much more invested, and that's just me, and maybe it's just my own personal opinion. That is a very well crafted movie, though. That's not the number 23.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't turn into Max Payne or Sin City or Blade 3 or any of these weird like. I didn't expect Jim Carrey to be having tribal tattoos.
Yeah. So we start off, the first chapter is Detective Fingerling is a child and he's speaking about how he wanted to become a detective because he grew up in an abusive home or some shit. And then he stops reading it and he is like, speaks to his wife about it and he's like, this is amazing, this book, da, da, da. I feel like it was written just for me. And she's like, oh, everyone feels that way. Like, it's like, I picture Fingerling as myself. She's like, oh, no, you're meant to, whatever. He's like, I read this book, Fingerling at the Zoo. Did you ever read that? Yeah. And she's like, no, I didn't read that. But then Fingerling leaps forward and, yeah, he's like a grizzled detective with tribal tattoos.
He looks like Nick Cave.
Yeah.
The haircut is current Nick Cave.
Yeah.
And Jim Carrey's build is similar to that.
Yeah,
He has the Matrix trench coat. He has the conversation saxophone.
Yeah.
He's just piecing all together these little bits of, whatever Schumacher's seen visually, he's like, I'll piece together a hard-boiled detective. The voice also gets deeper in character compared to narration, compared to real life Walter.
Well, this is my note here, is he is so bad as Fingerling.
Yeah, I mean, he is.
He's horrendous. He's fine as Walter for the most part. But he's just like, yeah, he's just like adrift as fingerling.
But
Like, what's he doing here?
But it shouldn't have. We could talk about alternative casting and everything. Nobody would have been able to do that well. I don't think anyone.
Tons of people, any actor could be able to do that well. If Jim Carrey had gone over the top, you're like, okay, I don't think there's anything he could have done that would have been this bad. If he played it over the top as Clint Eastwood, that would have been like, it's like he's committing to making fingerling. Like, he's kind of doing an impression of these hard-boiled detectives.
Yes, of course it is. Because it is.
But he's not. But if he did an actual impression, it would be. You would think it would be more over the top, but it would still be closer to what it needs to be than this.
I guess so. I guess my whole point is the dialogue that has to come out your mouth, the costume you have to wear, the tribal tattoos. It's very much an edgy 13-year-old boys Pulp Fiction style, hard-boiled neo-noir. It's not what you expect.
I have a line for you here, which is, she has a face meant to smile. And this was where I was like, okay, I see why Callum would love this, because he's much more of an engaged viewer, and I can just imagine him cracking up at some of the like dog shit lines.
Yeah, it is funny. It is funny. Like, it is. That's what I'm saying. I one of my thoughts when I first seen this movie, way back in the day. One of the only reviews I remember is it's an idea I think I would have came up with, but it's stupid. Yeah. And that's a 17-year-old boy thinking that. Like, that's absolutely something I'd have wrote in high school. Yeah. That someone gets obsessed with a number and it goes, I see it everywhere, and it's numerology and all this shit. But the world around it's such an edgelord 2007.
You know what just occurred to me? This film isn't a million miles away from My Beloved Serenity. Yeah. It's quite similar to that, but Serenity has that masterful twist where it's like, oh, here's the reason why this is the way it is. Yeah. Like, if the number 23 revealed that, like, this was Walt Jr.'s diary,
of course,
then you're like, okay, this begins to make a little bit more sense. But they don't do that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I do agree with you.
The visual style of the fingerling segments is horrendous because what's her name? Not Chelsea Dagger, but like there's the woman, femme fatale, blonde murder.
Suicide Blonde.
Suicide Blonde, there we go. There's scenes where she's in that room, like it's all got like paper over the walls, and it's just so horrendously overexposed, like in the way that like they do in that kind of era of like, you know, here's like Tom Cruise remembering when something went wrong in the past in Minority Report of like
100%.
In the past they're like, oh, when your hard-boiled hero is remembering purer days and the death of innocence, and the key to establish that is blown out, overexposed, and then
but that's an agent of the times. That's a stylistic choice. It was a contemporary appropriate. Now it looks like dog shit.
I don't think people at the time would have been they'd be like, oh cool, great, it's just a 2007 movie.
Exactly. And again, like I said, Schumacher must have seen Sin City a couple of years ago.
100%,
Pulls out so much. Visually, anyway.
So after Suicide Blonde throws herself out the window, he starts talking about Krista Berg and the woman in red.
Yep.
And I think it's the woman in red who has a face meant to smile. When Walter Sparrow or Fingerling is investigating the crime scene, he comes out with this line: burning coffee grounds is a trick cops use to take death away from a crime scene.
Smell death away,
But someone had used all the coffee. And I was like, I'm sure that's like partly, I don't know, I can see there being like substance to that, but also I'm imagining someone just turning up at a crime scene like, yo, why the fuck does it smell like Starbucks in here?
Again though, that is what I say by a young person writing a new my coffee was as black as the night.
Exactly.
Takes away the smell of death. It's so...
Someone had used all the coffee. The coffee pot was empty like my soul. And then my next note is, what the fuck voice is he doing here?
Yeah.
Because we switch, we're no longer in...
We're not in
the Derek Fingerling Center for kids who can't read good voice. We are in... You said he's kind of doing like Bruce Willis. If he's doing more of like a... He's doing more of a hard-boiled,
Is
like...
the more...
Okay.
That's what I expect. What was fucking Willis film we watched for this?
Bruno. Hudson Hawk?
Hudson Hawk.
Or
I expected
The Colour of Night?
No, it's Hudson Hawk. Both, actually. I expect especially Hudson Hawk to have this voice.
Yeah.
He doesn't, but I expected it. This is what's that film again?
Ford Fairlane?
Yeah, that one. I expect my detectives to put on that
Hey,
voice.
my name's Bill Fingerling.
But yeah, I didn't expect 3 voices out of Jim. I really didn't. It's rough.
Yeah. Next note is this is the normal world where Jim's just sitting by like a basketball court or like a running track, and kids run by with jerseys with 2 and 3 on the back. I remember I think you exclaimed something at this moment, be like, "Fuck, this is nonsense."
It is fucking nonsense. This is funny. This is the turning point when you kind of got me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to speak about it, but I will now. I really like Pi. Yeah. I like Aaron Aronofsky. That film's like fucking under 90 minutes. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And that's my numerology obsession film. It always will be, and I'll always think of it.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and it makes this is stupid, and this is where the point where I'm like, now you're just getting stupid.
Yeah.
Because the kids
this
run
is
past.
the exact turning point. Yeah.
It's like one of the kids' jersey's 2, and then the other's like 33, and it's at that brief second where it looks like 23.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the fucking time, it's not. And this is where it starts going, 203, if you take out the it's 23, and it's
if you
just
ignore all these other numbers, then you
it's
can find 23 in almost anything.
and I again so my memory, I'm going to try and when I said I could talk about this film, in my head he gets the book. I remember the book. I remember the obsession coming in slowly. This is where I'm maybe conflating it with Pi and other things, but I'm like insomnia or something. It was a slow drive. They kick him out the house because of his obsession.
Okay, yeah.
And he moves into. That's what I'm saying. I've seen the hotel room a lot more. That's when he starts scribbling on the walls.
Yeah, when he fully goes
and it's
off
a descent.
the end, yeah.
And it wasn't as stupid as, like, in my head. It wasn't just I see things and throw them together.
Yeah.
It was things that that is actually quite strange. Things are always adding up to 23 or looking at 23.
Yeah.
Like, you can get that, but it's so fucking stupid. And the snap as well of suddenly I'm making myself see 23 everywhere.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason. There's no build up. It's just I've read 3 pages and now I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking stupid. Oh.
Well, that's where my note came in, because I was like, is this actually genius? Is Joel Schumacher actually like a god? Is this like the best cinematic depiction of mania? Where I'm like, because it makes sense to Jim Carrey, but to everyone outside, you're like, this is obviously nonsense, and you're just watching someone lose their mind and read into things where there's nothing there.
Well, that's it. And it's a problem with both the script writing and the direction. Sorry, Joel, but like subtlety would be really, really helpful here. If I was actually counting things to see if they added up to 23, if there was 23 things on the table, and I was like, how many are there? Rather than things that are just smashing it in your face and putting these things that don't even make sense.
If there was like any pushback of like anyone in his family like challenged him, was like, oh no, that's just coincidence, or like, but what about this, or like, hey look, I can do that with 44.
Exactly.
But
And they do that for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
The family, I think it's the wife does have a line that you can do that with any number.
Yeah.
But by the next line of dialogue, she's all aboard.
No, you're right. Yeah. Which comes in a little bit later, is when like the Walt Jr. and his wife join him on this little quest, and I'm like, I do not buy this in a million years. They would be getting him sectioned. They wouldn't be like, okay, sure, let's see what this 23 thing is all about. Mm-hmm. This is like one of the funniest moments I had here. So Jim is like, he's had sex with his wife or whatever, and he's freaking out now, and he gets out of bed in the middle of the night. And we were watching this through Less Than Legal Means with a version which had subtitles on, and his wife said, "What are you doing?" And then it came up with parenthesis in normal voice reading
the film view.
Which I'm just going to use from now on.
Absolutely in normal voice.
Like, Bora voice, my wife, normal voice, nothing. I'm just being sane over here. Don't bother asking about it.
Yeah.
And so then Jimbo goes to Danny Houston, who, what is he in the real world?
The teacher.
Yeah, the guy who becomes Miles Phoenix.
That's the teacher.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're friends.
Yeah.
His wife's friends with him, but he's a...
Because the one thing we know about Walter Sparrow is he does not have a single friend.
No, he doesn't. It's his wife's friend, and he is
I'm beginning to see why.
He is a teacher, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And he goes to him and just uses him as like a sounding board. And then we find out that Danny Houston, is he the only person outside Jimbo who appears in both the fantasy and the novel?
Is...
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. So he appears in the world, in the Sin City world. He plays Miles Phoenix.
I mean, that's great, and I will talk about Big Miles Phoenix.
Yeah.
But one part I did get a little chuckle out is when Jimbo goes to him and he's
Yeah.
like, I've read this book.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's self-published. It's not, it's not even a real fucking book. You
It
should
doesn't even have an ISBN number.
So, don't know what you're on about. And then Jimbo explains it, and there's a bit where he's like, oh no, that's real. That's number 23 is everywhere. And he goes and gets like an ancient book out, and he's like, fucking Pythagoras talked about it. Oh no, it's totally real. You're insane. I love that. But yeah, in the fictional Max Payne world, he is Miles Phoenix.
No, Mark David Chapman. Catch you on the rise. All of you sending me messages.
Which is great. And I like that. I like old birds. This Walter Sparrow and Miles Phoenix and all this. That's a nice little touch. Robin's his son that you pointed out. A nice little Schumacher connection.
So we don't get any Sin City visuals. Like we don't get any big prosthetics or anything funny because he by this point in his time, Joel Schumacher did not have the verve which made him such a visual stylist in Batman and Robin.
But there is, when he's in the office with Miles and the set's moving.
Yeah.
And then it goes all the way back to the back wall when it lands on Miles.
Yeah.
That is something that is so unnecessary, but fair play Schumacher.
There are lots of good camera movements.
There is a lot of little
it's
flourishes.
It's not like visually in terms of makeup, production design, whatever.
It's ugly as fuck.
We're not. But the thing I thought was funny was Miles Phoenix has painted on facial hair. He has a little
which
painted
I like.
goatee.
Yeah, I like that. It matches the painted on tattoos, of Walter Sparrow or Fingerling or whatever the fuck he's called.
And so by this point, I could tell from the note that we were really drifting here because my next note is David Beckham signing for LA Galaxy. Because the number 23 is set in California, and it was round about this time that David Beckham signed for LA Galaxy, where he wore the shirt number 23. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm just imagining Jim walking down the street past a store with TVs in the windows and he sees ESPN and Beckham just holding up a 23 shirt. He's like, oh, that's right. But yeah, we were really adrift by this point because the film was tedious.
The film does become tedious. Any sort of interesting hook, which I do think there is. I don't think it's well executed. I do think there's an interesting thing at the start.
Yeah.
But because it devolves into genuine stupidity.
Yeah.
And not just stretches. I can suspend my disbelief, I can...
Yeah, tons of films have a bit of a stupid leap to be like, okay, we don't quite know how to take you into this new world that we want to go into, so just come with us.
Well, you brought up earlier, that's what I felt with The Substance. It was a film where I thought, if I think about this, I'm not going to like it, but if I just roll with the punches and enjoy what you're showing me, I'll love it.
Yeah.
But don't devolve into just pure stupid or you're gonna lose me.
Yeah, this is like a bus going at 1 mile per hour and just stopping every traffic light and giving you the opportunity. Joel Schumacher's like, you guys want to get off here?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because we're gonna be driving for 23 more hours, so okay, you're the boss. So he finishes reading the 23 book, The Adventures of Fingerling, and there's no end.
There's only 22 chapters.
Yeah,
Chapter 23.
Which you liked earlier on when the guy mentioned the Book of Exodus. 23 and 22. And you were like, so not 20.
No, that's a lot of it. And it's, it's numbers 32.
Yeah.
And he's like, the 32 but the 32 backwards is a different number.
Yeah.
32 is a number. Yeah. that stretches are what really get to me.
Yeah. Every number in every number is divisible by either 2, 3, 23, 1. So he's like, there's no ending to the book. It ends on the 22nd chapter, and there's a bunch of empty pages at the end.
So, at this point of the film, we've got a lot of hints of the twist. Were you starting to click? Where were you at this point?
Oh, I don't know, from as soon as he starts reading it, when they're like, picture yourself as Bill Fingerling, that's when I'm like, okay, great, I know where this is.
What clicked for me, there was a line from the wife where it's like, I liked him at the start, but I didn't like him at the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, it's because he wrote the book. And it clicked in my brain. I was like, that's the twist. I forgot that.
Yeah.
I forgot all the other bits of the twist later on, but this is where all the hints are hitting hard.
Yeah.
When he goes to the hotel and the manager perks up that he doesn't take the room 23.
Yeah.
So that's a spoiler, a hint and all this foreshadowing.
Yeah.
It's a bit M. Night heavy, but it's...
Take his
Actually, no, it's actually... I'm going to say, although it's a shit twist and it's just shit plot, shit script. It's built up okay.
Yeah, yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
So my note here. I did have a fear earlier in this film that the movie was going to make me insane. I was like, is this going to break my brain? And like, I don't know, I have tendencies towards obsession. I was like, am I going to come out of this? I don't think I'm good enough with numbers to be calculating what does and doesn't add up to 23. But there was a moment where I was like, oh no, is this going to awaken something in me? And we have the first inkling of it here, where my note is very 23 color grading.
Yeah.
And I meant to note down very 07 color grading, but 23 is now just the number I will use for everything. But yeah, because this is, I think, where you get the blue, like the
that's what you said
kinda.
before. It's a lot of post processing. It's not in camera work. It's all a bunch of blue, a bunch of I think oranges as well. It's red's heavy.
Yeah.
Like
You've seen this movie a million times before.
Judging by the cover, though, right? If you're looking at the poster and what you think of it, it isn't as drab looking as you think.
Well, I was thinking Fincher, so I was like, this is all going to be like greens and yellows and like.
I think brown. I think this is
dirty brown.
Salvation time.
Exactly.
This is brown.
Yeah.
So
the infamous piss color.
Piss filter on. So I was actually, again, it's Schumacher though. I forgot Schumacher did it, so the man does know how to use colour.
Well, we get that shot that's lit by like a red bulb. It's like a dark room, and I was like, oh, he's pulling out all his tricks here. Yeah. Which, like, I'm grateful. You thought this was Rennie Harlan. This film would have been so much worse if it was directed by Rennie Harlan.
It would have been 73 minutes though. I'd have loved it. Yeah, it does reek of Rennie. I did think this before we sat down. In my head, I was convinced it was Harlan. And it's kind of what we were speaking about before. We were convinced there might have been some recasting or some rejiggering. I felt that with the direction. I was like, this feels like Rennie's come in and salvaged a job quickly. But no, apparently not.
So, do you want to talk about the casting now, I guess?
Yeah, let's go.
Because we were watching this, and Walter had all his, like, he's not like Robin Williams, but, like, still, he was kind of cracking jokes here or there. Had lots of lines where, like, this is something that you add because it's Jim Carrey.
Yes.
And my instinct was, I was like, I don't think this film was written as a Jim Carrey vehicle. I think this was a generic thriller. And they were like, oh, hey, great, we can get Jim. And so we were like, okay, round about 2007, who do you think would work? And I was like, immediately, John Cusack. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, also Nicolas Cage came into my mind because he... In making like Knowing or like all his movies,
100%.
I feel like Nick Cage has a going insane because of Number.
I feel movie, I think he made this movie. It exists in some way.
Number 24.
100%. That's what we need deep fake CGIs for.
And you said...
Well, I said Spacey at first.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking there's a lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've said it before, he does have Tom Cruise hair in this Jimbo.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking of him, but as soon as you said Nicolas Cage, that is 100% the man that should have been in this. He wouldn't have cost 23 million.
Yeah.
He made even more profit. But then it doesn't feel like it was a Jimbo thing.
No.
And then obviously we started speaking about Schumacher. Yeah. And if it was a, sort of a friends for the boys, a bit of a favour, can you come in?
Yeah.
Which I don't think's far from the truth. I don't think Jimbo's here if Schumacher's not, and maybe even vice versa.
Yeah. Well, as we discovered on the IMDb trivia, it says that, contrary to what I said, like, and another detail about the screenplay, would it surprise you to learn that this is a first-time screenwriter?
Who'd have thunk it?
But, like, they probably didn't write it with Jimbo in mind, but...
23-year-old scriptwriter, isn't
it? This is like maybe in Arrested Development, just like a teen hanging out by the work. I'm being like, I'm hearing a lot about this number 23. But it said that from the second that Joel Schumacher came on board, he was like dead set on it being Carrey, and the studio wanted it to be De Niro. Yeah. And so he offered it to De Niro, and De Niro said no. Yeah. Because can you imagine this movie with Robert De Niro?
No, it would be awful. I mean, not that it was good, but I would have really, because it wouldn't even have had it wouldn't have had the Schumacher chemistry.
No,
either. No. I don't think Schumacher would have directed De Niro as well as he could have for Jimbo. No, I don't think. I this is symbiotic. I think you've got to have both of them.
Yeah.
And that's a good little power play from Joel, because De Niro is not signing up. So if you're your actual pick, you let the studio try and do De Niro, and then be like, oh, well, it's our it's my boy, then it is. Like, let them try, and then it would never have got it. Never.
Yeah, because like obviously they tailor scripts and things on the basis of their star, but they would have had to do substantial rewrites in order for this to work as De Niro. And the only thing that I think is interesting is that you would have the conflict of De Niro's like 70s persona versus who he was in the 2000s.
Yes.
Of like, it's interesting to see him as like the intern De Niro of like domestic De Niro, and then in the book he like fingerling is like Travis Bickle. Like seeing De Niro go from wearing a cardigan to tribal tattoos is an interesting conflict.
If you were gonna cast someone else as fingerling in the book and not do this split world stuff,
Mark Wahlberg.
Ben Stiller, he's get the tribal tats. So and this is what kind of sidetracked me from this last bit of the film, is when you pointed out Bob Zmuda is in this movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As a hotel clerk with a bit of facial disfigurement.
Yeah, like a birthmark.
Birthmark, that's the one. And I mean, he's very recognisable, but I wouldn't expect him ever. So I just assume he's someone else. And as soon as you said it, I was like, there he is. Yeah. And then I was trying to work it out. Was this a Man on the Moon?
Do you want me to head out and just leave you?
No. I was like, this is, Schumacher's brought in Jim. Jim's brought in Zmuda. Like it's the Man on the Moon connection. Yeah. And then I looked it up and found out Zmuda's in Batman Forever. So my little Axis world colliding, Andy Kaufman. Yeah, very strange.
And how does this collide with my axis of U.S. Senator Patrick Leahy, who's in all the Batman movies?
It's all working out, isn't it? And very strange. Zmuda hasn't really done anything since, apart from documentaries. Yeah. But nice for him to get a little paycheck.
Yeah.
23 million, some of that can go to Bob, can't
Jobs for the boys,
Yeah, very, very nice.
Jim is getting 23 million. We will pay you $23, Bob. How do you feel about that?
$23?
Expenses included. I can't stretch it that far, Bob. Sorry. Lunch, maybe. But
like I said to you, though, I think I like, I love Zmuda winding up Jim on Man on the Moon.
Yeah, so should we establish the Kaufman collection? Yes. The connection. For people who haven't seen Man on the Moon, don't know what Man on the Moon is about, it is about the comedian Andy Kaufman, played by Jim Carrey, and also played by Nicholas Braun. Yes. All connected.
All connected.
All comes back. And
Bob Zmuda was Andy Kaufman's writing partner, and also produces Axe and Man on the Moon and helped put that together. Wrote the book that is most famous about Kaufman, organised his album with Hader, but he's a notorious prankster, just like Andy. And I think what was shown in that Jim and Andy documentary was Bob pushing and egging on Jim Carrey to take on this method transformation. And I like to think even...
Offer Andy's bereaved relatives a chance to meet him, Jim. That would go down really well.
Which is so funny. Make him go to the Playboy Mansion in character and piss. Oh, I love it. But I like to think that 18 years later, the joke never ended and Andy would have got me a job on the number 23. So it's nice to see him pop up.
You know what would have been a great bit? Would have been if one of the fingerling narration, if you just did that in character.
Thank you very much. But it's very odd. I never expected to get a little, oh shit, there's one of my boys, one of my obscure little heroes. Lovely to see him.
Well, other trivia for you is we discovered that Bud Cort is in this film in an uncredited role. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan of Harold and Maude, and I'm sure he's in other Hal Ashby films. But
I'm sure he's in other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. No, he is. He's one of those guys. And so, it was good to see him commit suicide. Okay, so... back to the film. By this point in time, it's a family affair. He's got the Walt Jr. and he's got his wife in on the delusion, and they go and they speak to the killer of what's her.
Laura Palmer.
Laura Palmer,
it's not
of course.
Laura Palmer. It's Laura Palmer.
It's Laura.
It gets a bit funky here because, and again, I'm going to jump about, but Walt Jr. finds an address when he's reading the book.
Yeah.
And they mail FedEx 23 boxes of packaging to the address to see who turns up. Yeah. And then your boy turns up.
Yeah.
And then he gets suicided.
Yeah.
And then
Death by Clinton. It's okay, this will come out after the election.
And that's what, like, okay, so it's a full family affair at this point, and then after that is when Jim and his wife go to see the author.
Yeah.
Because he's worked out that the author is the killer of Laura Palmer.
Yeah.
Who the dog from the start sits at the grave.
Yeah.
Because he is the watcher of the dead.
Greyfriars Bobby.
Yeah, Guardian of the Dead or some shit. I skip over that a little bit in my head because it's so fucking stupid that he goes from LA to this set graveyard with smoke machines, and a priest comes out of nowhere after him shooting the dog, and he's like, "That's my fucking dog.
Why are you been molesting my dog, Walter?"
Yeah, and he's like, "No, the dog's sleeping. It's fine."
Yeah.
And then the owner comes out, and it gets really fucking weird.
Yeah.
That is all to explain the twist.
Mm-hmm.
It's all to try and throw you off and red herrings, but it just is stupid.
Yeah.
So then they go to see the killer, and the killer's like, "I'm innocent."
Yeah. Well, no, he speaks to him. Jim's like, "Here's the book. You wrote the book."
Yes.
And the guy flicks through it and is like, "I don't think I've called myself top secret."
Well, that's it.
And then he's like, "What? Top secrets is top secrets?" And then Jim breezes out of there with like such confidence and says, "He's innocent."
Yep. Yeah.
The numbers don't add up.
The
to
numbers don't add
23.
to 23. He's innocent.
And we were speaking about like this now becomes like a legal drama where Jim launches an appeal and the judge is like, "Okay,
Oh, you got that's all I need to see.
exactly."
It's isn't it?
The Cape Fear theme starts playing as this guy walks out of prison.
Oh.
So the dog which has launched a lot of this is called Ned.
Yeah. It's the Helen of Troy of the movie, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Ned's key to all of this. So Jim then takes like Walt Jr. and his wife and he's driving around, and then he sees Ned and he puts the pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
And we get, which I'm not entirely sure it is, but I said to you, is that the vertigo dolly zoom? But we get an interesting camera move on Ned the dog as he just like rabbit in the headlights, seeing this van come.
It moved so
crashing
quickly
towards
it
him.
could have been digital.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was nice.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Again, you're not getting that these days, are you?
No, not at all.
And then my next line is, "You're Robert Galbraith," because Jim confronts his wife and is like, "You wrote the book.
Yep.
Top Secrets is your pseudonym." And then we rapidly
find
the
it.
ending.
Well, there's weird shit as well, right? And there's, again, I'm half asleep by this point, so
Yeah.
when the film gets too stupid, I clock out. But the wife going to the address to dig up a literal coffin with his name on it that had his past in it was weird. But basically, this is where the wife says, "No, I didn't write the book. You did, you dafty." And we get the big twist, if you can call it twist, that Mr. Walter Sparrow is the writer of the book.
Yeah.
And he is Fingerling.
Yeah.
But in a past life. Well, not even a past life, in a 13 years ago.
I wish I could come up with all the movies that have done this, because
Yeah.
it's like it would be more of a twist if he wasn't Fingerling, but it's
of course
like,
it is. I mean, it would make anything would make more sense at this point. And now it's the desperate that he did fall into obsession, and all that did happen in the book is true, but kinda he read detective comics, mixed the truth in the fiction, half confession, half not. But he did kill Laura Palmer, and he did frame not top secret to do it by mistake. So he is a killer, but then he tried to kill himself, failed. He's got some good old amnesia, and then within 13 years managed to... I don't know, the timeline doesn't add up here, so...
So he
he meets her right after hospital, actually, he does.
Yeah, so. He writes the novel after doing
That's his
the
confession.
crime. Yeah. And my note there was he's in frantic Bruce Almighty mode as he's writing the novel. Like, that I just see it as a gif where he's like, doing the one finger. He's basically doing that, and the camera is all shaky as they're like he's just frantically writing this insane novel.
Well, I think I thought of it. The joke that came to my head was the Father Ted one. I think it's The Simpsons, but you're frantically typing pages.
Okay, we've had a J.K. Rowling reference. 30 seconds.
Arthur Matthews wrote this joke. It's okay. You're frantically typing, pages and pages, and there's only like one line at the top, the number 23.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I seen.
See, my mind goes to SpongeBob for that.
It was a montage though. I like seeing even the motions of Schumacher, the pages frantically and scrawling and stuff.
Yeah.
I like that. It's
Yeah.
fucking hilarious though.
Okay, so that kind of brings us to the end. My final notes here, that line, which is, look around at all the beautiful 23s, is something his wife says.
Yeah.
And it's just like a deeply funny, beautiful 23s.
Yeah.
It's such like a funny phrase. And then Jimbo gives us a wrap-up voiceover where he's like, the artist formerly known as Top Secrets is out. They got to kind of like bring like closure to Laura Palmer's family and give her like a funeral and whatever. And I'm in the big house where I belong. But the judge is happy that I turned myself in, and hopefully I'll get out one day. And then he looks at like the clock, and I this is where I really like the final shot. Like, I think it's just it's done really well. I think he looks almost down the barrel of the lens.
Yeah.
Like, it's very close to like the Jonathan Demme Silence of the Lambs type thing.
Psycho, isn't it?
Yeah. And then you see that he's watching the clock, and the hands are pointing to like 2 or 3 or whatever. And then it cuts back to his face, and I'm like, yeah, this is the most hack thing imaginable, but still they've shot it in like a kind of powerful way.
Yeah, they did.
So.
I misremembered that as
Yeah.
well. It's like I thought he was in a asylum, not a prison. Like,
Yeah.
from memory, he gets
Where
locked
you
up.
belong.
Yeah, and when he was speaking, in my head, he was speaking to the wife,
Yeah.
and the clock was above him,
Yeah.
and it was on 23.
Yeah.
But when at the end of the film, when he turns, it's 24.
Yeah.
So he's past it, it's
he's
moved
broken
on. Yeah, he's
through,
broken
yeah,
through,
yeah.
and then that was it. It was just in my head. I was like,
Yeah.
so I was sitting there thinking, oh, I remember they've got a really nice ending. I'm gonna play. I remember
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
that's quite smart and quite nice to
Yeah, yeah.
wrap it up, and then fucking
No,
didn't.
sorry.
No, that was just something I imagined. Great.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, if Joel Schumacher was still around, you could get in touch with him. Joel, reshoot.
Come on.
The Schumacher cut.
There's still time.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna scroll through the IMDb trivia for you here.
Yes, please.
Most of this is garbage. Jim Carrey claims to have been obsessed with number 23 long before being part of the movie. His production company is called JC23 Entertainment. It was coincident his father was an accountant and he played the saxophone, like his character in the movie. And because Phoenix Wright says, like, how many protagonists in novels play the saxophone?
Yeah.
0. And you're like, well, quite
Well,
a few, actually. Jim Carrey was paid exactly $23 million to act in this movie. 333
Oh.
people, which if you double it gets you to 666, and then if you divide 666 by, what was it? Divide 666 by 3. Or, the 666 is a part of the 23 system. It all comes back. The plot is largely based on the philosophical writings of William S. Burroughs, who came to believe that number 23 held mystical significance after encountering it during significant moments in his life. Burroughs eventually wrote the screenplay The Last Words of Dutch Schultz around this concept, in which he used the deathbed ramblings of mobster Dutch Schultz as a springboard for telling a story based around Schultz's life, which in Burroughs' vision revolved around the occurrences of the number 23. Well, I just saw Queer the other day, and that is a far better tribute to William S. Burroughs than this movie.
Yeah. Again, an interesting concept. I'm never going to say being obsessed with numbers and numerology isn't interesting.
I'll go there. I'll say it's uninteresting.
I like pi.
Yeah. Pi is great,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Pi is very short.
Yeah, pi I'm interested in obsession rather than the numbers. But yeah, the DVD contains exactly 23 chapters. And then as we go, we are seriously just getting into the ramblings of like an deeply unwell mind. Because oh damn it, we don't have internet here, do we?
Yeah.
Okay, bear with me for a moment.
Technical difficulties.
As we
Hang
bring
in
these
there.
up, I want you to think about what type of individual would have
I fucking know exactly.
noted these. At the time of his death, director Joel Schumacher made 23 theatrical films. Okay, that's fine, normal enough.
I do
there.
want that checked though.
There is stuff there. The number 23 is a W, and in Batman Forever, there's a scene of Carey underneath the W, the gate outside Main Manor.
fucking
Bit of
Christ.
a reach there, but that's okay. This is all stuff related to the film. The DVD length is 1:41 and 8 seconds. 14 plus 1 plus 8 equals 23.
But there is no 14. It was 1 plus 41 plus
Exactly,
8.
yeah. I'm sure you could get being like, okay, 1, we'll just convert that to 6 and 0. Okay, there are 23 coincidences in the beginning of the movie. I think that's the titles, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The number of letters in the two main actors' names, Jim Carrey and Virginia Madsen, add up to 23. Elizabeth Shue was originally cast in the female lead, but had to decline because she was pregnant, so the part went to Madsen.
With her 23rd child.
Yeah. Elizabeth Shue, star of Cocktail.
Yes.
How many letters are in Elizabeth Shue? Is it the same as Madsen, or was Shue fired because she didn't? In several countries, this movie premiered 23rd of March 2007.
Well, like that.
The apartment across from the Suicide Blonde is 959. 9 plus 5 plus 9 equals 23. Okay, these are all anything within...
This one I like. Read this one.
Danny Houston says of the book, of course there are far too few books where the main character plays a saxophone. He went on to play the Axeman, a jazz saxophone.
Beautiful.
IMDb lists this movie as number 23, 2007. 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 7 equals 14. There are 9 letters in the number 14 plus 9 equals 23.
I still think this would have been really effective if there was like 22 and 24 and people were, I just wish this was the audience almost playing the car, where's Wally kind of thing, trying to look for it, not be smacked in the face with it.
Yeah, so these are all normal enough, and I agree. Anything within the text of the film itself, I'm willing to give you blank check for that. Film came out on the DVD in the UK on July 23rd, 2007. No mention of the US release. The car Walter drives is 1976 International Harvest Scout 2. 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 6 equals 23. They're forgetting the 2 there. The names Jim Carrey and Joel Schumacher add up to 23 letters. Jim Carrey's behaviour during filming was reportedly bizarre and upsetting to others on set. That's odd for him, isn't it?
That's very odd, eh? Good old Jimbo.
Radar cited a source which told them that during filming, Carrey unzipped his fly and urinated as part of the improvisation. Everyone was horrified.
Yeah.
But he pissed for 23 seconds.
He did. Zamuda had a good giggle about it, didn't he?
Okay, this is the first one where I'm like, someone with an undiagnosed illness recorded this. Jim Carrey's appearance on episode number 15.33 2007 of The Tonight Show to promote the film on the 15th of February 2007, Carrey explains the premise of the movie at 12:11 a.m. EST. 12 plus 11 equals 23.
That's insane.
Who is noticing that? Who is watching a Tonight Show with that clock? I'd be like, he's gonna do it.
And he also has to deliver it all in 1 minute. If he goes over, he's fucked it.
Yeah. So that's basically it. I think that's
the screenwriter. Darby. He's justifying the script, isn't he?
Yeah. Okay. So we're a little bit rusty on our usual segments. So the smallest change you could make that would make the biggest difference to this film.
Oh, you go first.
Oh, I was really hoping you'd bail me out here. Just like, I don't know. There's like, this film is so weird where there's nothing that works so well. Like sometimes we're like, oh, if you take out this performance, then it's a lot weaker.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nothing you can really do to push it too much in either direction. Because on just like a fundamental screenplay level, it's nonsense.
It's not, that's a big change though. The smallest changes, I'm going to say, without touching the script. That script has to be delivered word for word. One thing I haven't spoke about because I don't really notice it is there's very little soundtrack.
Yeah. Well, you missed. They play a song called The Banality of Evil at the end, which sounded a bit like... I was like, is this by a band?
Yeah, but there's no sound, there's no score really. There's no... That's probably the biggest thing, and I expect that from Schumacher. I expect the sound design is probably his weakest part in this film.
Seal, Kiss from...
Yeah. And even just something, but I don't know. Even that fidelity kind of soundtrack. Yeah. Maybe more saxophone, make it noir-y. Like, I don't think he plays the fucking saxophone. I don't think anyone plays the saxophone. So I'm going to say sound is probably the smallest change to improve it. It's minor. Yeah. It's very, like you're saying, if you take out something, whatever was enjoyable will fall apart.
Yeah.
To make it good, you have to fundamentally, systematically change everything.
Yeah, that's a very good note. You're right. Sound is like,
sound. It was very, very just non-existent.
Okay, come to me. My only thing would be if you change the novel, like if you change the fingerling sequences and lead into making that a bit more stylish. Because there's moments where, like the opening, where like it's almost like that famous painting, you know, like the farmhouse where like the kids crawling around.
Oh yeah.
Like you were like, as soon as that started, you're like, oh, this is hideous.
Yeah.
If you'd made it a bit more stylized, of like, I don't know, like Dick Tracy or something.
Yeah.
If you make more, I think you could do something with the storybook.
I do think you take one or the other. You either make the film I thought it was and remembered, where it's a serious thriller with a man breaking down, getting kicked out of his house, and the world rejecting him, or you go full fucking into the over the top noir silliness. Because again, he has tribal tattoos and it's funny, and he puts on a voice. You've got to kind of have pick him one lane.
Another thing which occurred to me, so watching this, like you mentioned earlier, what if a different actor played Fingerling? And I was thinking, okay, who would you cast? And I was like, a film I like very much that came out 2 years after this, I think, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. I was like, what if a different actor played Fingerling in every section, or Jim Carrey played Fingerling in every section, but in each one he was doing a different impression of a famous detective. Here, Fingerling is Dirty Harry. Yeah. Here, he's Columbo. Yeah. Here, he's Sherlock Holmes.
It would have been fun. Okay, I've got one as well. This is a minor change, but you do have to change the script a little bit. Yeah. I think you really should have made Jim Carrey more likable as a character. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a big problem. Is he's a bit quirky and he's got a bit of humor, but like. Yeah. He's very bland. Yeah,
he's not a character.
He's got nothing to him. You know, it's all very. It's that Ryan Reynolds thing where you're. I don't believe if what you're saying is fun. Like you're making jokes to try and get rid of it. In the room and stuff, but build on that. He isn't likable, so it's hard to root for him, and it's hard to feel any fucking sympathy.
Yeah, for him. When your protagonist is like a family man who loses his mind, of like if he like
the film I thought I saw in my head was that he was this normal dad, just like a fucking Malcolm in the Middle, proper dad.
I was thinking of Breaking Bad with the Walt Jr. thing.
Whereas here he goes from Cranston would have done this very well.
Here he goes from being like a non-entity to a non-entity who's in jail. That's the arc of this film.
So that's a big problem. Is I don't give a shit about Jim.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about anyone, which is a big problem in the film.
Yeah. Very edgy. We're just going to loop that. That's Karl Szymanski.
The dog was okay.
I don't give a shit about anyone.
I like Bob Zamuda. He was fun.
Okay, so our next recurrent feature, Razzie worthiness of this film. So you've kind of spoke about it a little bit. So this was in 2007, which I was very pleased with myself for being able to recall what one, which is I Know Who Killed Me. Lynchian film we both liked quite a lot.
Yep.
This was more unpleasant. This was a much tougher watch than I Know Who Killed Me.
This is much worse.
I think this is worse than I Know Who Killed Me.
I do agree. 100%.
And this was actually nominated for a Razzie.
Yes, it was. I had to look up. It was Jim Carrey for worst actor, and however, no other nominations.
Yeah.
Just that, which confirms my theory that Mr. Razzie never watched the fucking film and just wanted to dunk on Jim for some relevancy. For that though, for the one nomination it did get, no. I don't think Jim's terrible in this.
No.
We're laughing at the accents and the voices and stuff.
Well, I asked you, I was like, is it double duty? Is he nominated for Walter Sparrow / Fingerling, or is he twice?
It's just Walter Sparrow, and Walter Sparrow is fine. Fingerling, give him the fucking Razzie.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is direction.
Yeah.
There's bits there's a bit at the end when he is tearing up the hotel room and he starts crying.
Yeah.
I actually like it. I was like, Jim, that looks good. You're emoting.
Yeah.
You know, if that's all I come to expect for a Razzie film, are you emoting? Are you acting? Then okay, fair.
Every time you say emoting, it reminds me of the late Liam Payne, where he speaks about Will Smith and being there for the slap, and he's like, I got to solve one of the great emotions of our time. And just in this podcast being about mental health awareness, if you're seeing number 23 everywhere, talk to people. Just wanted to share one of my little...
I will stand on a limb and say all the performances here were acceptable, not Razzie worthy. even Walt Jr. doesn't. He's not that bad, you know.
Walt Jr. is someone. He's Logan Lerman, isn't he? He's like the kid from like. He's like one of those like child actors. It's like the guy from Logan Lerman. He's in Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think he might be in. No, he's not.
Oh.
I thought he was in Saturday Night, but I'm getting him confused with someone else. Dylan. I'm getting confused.
Throwing around all these young starlets. Where's Chevy? So no, I don't. I think all the performances are fine. However, it 100% is a winner for worst screenplay. The fact it wasn't nominated is a bit of a loss. This is a very badly written film. Looking at the other nominations from 2007, that was like Bratz and other junk. I don't think it would have even been worst picture of 2007. It's bad.
Yeah.
I don't think it's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a hard one to say under the right circumstances. At Channel 5 at 4 a.m, it might be worth a watch. But otherwise, I'm
23 minutes past 5.
It is nice and brief though. It doesn't drag.
Yeah. As soon as you saw the running time here, you're like, "Oof, we're
so delayed."
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the film is worthy of nomination. I don't think Jim is. And screenplay worthy of nomination, potential winner. But completely agree with you.
I think it's the big sin as well is that I do think there is a fun idea. I think if you give that script and it passes through a few more people and gets properly done, there's a fun thing in here.
The high water mark for this is like these sort of like psychological like Shutter Island kind of thing. Yeah. Like there's no reason like the raw bones here couldn't have been made into something compelling.
Yeah. And then I can give it an insomnia twist onto it and I'll have a good little thriller out of it. But it ain't this, Chief. It isn't what came out. Yeah, it's an odd film. I will say that, but definitely not a Razzie picture for myself. But it is still 1,000 times worse than I Know Who Killed Me, which should never have been near that fucking thing.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to a close. Stay with us for part 2 when we will have some other odds and ends to discuss.
Excellent.
Hello and welcome back to the second half of the podcast. So previously this would be where we would cover the rest of the year when we were doing our year by year.
Go through the ceremony.
But if you want to hear our thoughts on 2007, then check out our I Know Who Killed Me episode. So instead, I'm just going to use this to catch up with a few more of my personal interests, and I'm just going to waffle.
This is when I leave the room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I have some stories surrounding people we've covered on the podcast, which are deeply entertaining, and I am looking forward to talking to you about. So, on our Kevin Smith episode, we covered the Cruise Askew.
We did.
Which is that you can go on a cruise with Kevin Smith and the other members of his entourage, including Jason Mewes and everyone who was in all the other movies that isn't Ben Affleck.
Wow.
So I have for you here a review
of
the Cruise Askew.
Excellent.
Because unfortunately, we were hoping to go, but we didn't quite make it. Our complimentary tickets didn't arrive for some reason.
Not at all.
But we have a reviewer here, and to contextualize this, the reviewer is not a fan of Jay and Silent Bob.
What? Okay, I mean, because I don't get these, and I spoke about this when we were on the Kevin Smith. I don't get the cruises.
Yeah.
They're very popular. The thing, like in my niches, like wrestling cruises, and there's like prog rock cruises. You go see Yes and ex-members of King Crimson or whatever. And I don't get them.
Weezer.
Yeah. No, there's anything. Weezer, anything I like do cruises. But the problem is you can't leave. Like I would go see Weezer because I can leave the gig. I won't be surrounded by 6,000 smelly people.
You don't want to hear Pinkerton.
I don't want every fucking time. I want to leave. I want to leave the cinema. I want to leave the gig. I don't understand the appeal of being stuck in the high international waters with these people.
Which is why, I'm like, this is such a great premise for like a film or something.
100%.
We pitched our Knives Out 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just being trapped. That
is.
claustrophobia. And like, cabin fever, but Silent Bob is there. And I just cannot comprehend what is the point of writing a review? Like, this thing is solely for Kevin Smith fans.
Yeah, it's
Like,
only for Kevin Smith.
Our opinions don't matter because we will be the first to admit we are not Kevin Smith fans. So why on earth you would review this? But I'm like, this is just so deeply funny. Like, none of that's going to make any sense to you.
No.
Like, what's that going to be like if you just parachute in and you're like, oh yeah, so they were all running around naked with their cocks tucked between their legs in snoogans, but... So,
Take it away.
the Jay and Silent Bob Cruise Askew made its debut voyage from February 23rd and through the 26th aboard the Norwegian Pearl with 6th man. The cruise began in Miami, Florida and sailed all the way to Nassau, Bahamas. The experience was hosted by Kevin Smith, Jason Mewes and all their friends from the View Askewniverse. In all honesty, I wasn't familiar with Jay and Silent Bob or the Askewniverse until 6 weeks before the cruise. I'm not sure how I missed all these cult classics in the 90s when I was in college, but I put myself through a crash course of movie viewing and research to make sure I was prepared for the voyage. I fell in love with the characters and the humour, so I was pretty excited to board the ship and see the live events with the characters.
Alright, I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna jump in randomly. I get that. I would understand.
You get that? Because I just wanted to say, person who gets into Kevin Smith in 2024 is an insane type of person.
But someone that went to college in the 90s would get into like Clerks now, because that will be
It'll be nostalgic, but
very
still
nostalgic. It will. That's what it'll be. They will connect it, because that's what you're saying.
Are you forgetting all the homophobic slurs in Jay and Silent Bob? The person applauding that, yeah, this is good.
Well, because
don't get this anymore because of woke.
Yeah, but possibly if it's a male, like, I'm not thinking of the homophobic, because I can still enjoy Clerks, right? I can still.
Well, exactly.
Enjoy what it
That's when, like, all the people who enjoy it, because I'm like, okay, well, like, it came from a different era, whatever. I'm not defending it or anything, but people, I can understand the effect that Chasing Amy had on you in the 90s when there weren't any other films, really, any other mainstream films dealing with that kind of subject matter. But now, the world is your oyster. I can't imagine anyone watching Chasing Amy now and
No.
yeah, this is awesome.
No, but you can. I'm thinking if you were crash coursing and just flying through.
Yeah.
I mean, if I just watched Clerks and Dogma, I'd be all aboard.
Yeah.
If I just skipped Mallrats and Chasing Amy.
Well, if you ever get hit on the head with something like Jim Carrey, have Sophie give me a call. We'll just send you off.
So I'm gonna say, yeah, I understand. I don't agree, but I understand where that's coming from. I still don't know why you'd go on the cruise, but let's continue.
The 3-day immersive experience gave guests a deep dive into the fictional? You telling me that Jay and Silent Bob aren't real? You telling me that Dogma didn't happen? Fictional Askewniverse. Activities featured were exclusive behind-the-scenes panels. Yeah, no shit they were exclusive, because you have to be a fucking idiot to pay for this.
You're at sea. There's no one else queuing up.
I was running a competing cruise where we were broadcasting Q&As. Question and answer sessions, Q&As as we call them in the biz. Live podcast recordings, activities with the actors, and podcast hosts, one and the same, surely.
Yep.
And much more. The ship even featured a pop-up restaurant, Moobies, made famous in Clerks 2. Well, not famous if you hadn't fucking heard of it.
No, exactly.
Moobies at sea. Here we can see some unappealing dishes there. Cow tipper, non-moo cow tipper, cock smoker chicken sandwich, hater tots, cow pie brownie, chocolate covered pretzels. All served up by vegan activist Kevin Smith.
Very strange that it's called Movies at Sea, and not like Movie Seaman or something.
Yeah,
you know,
movies you missed the trick.
He has. Kevin, comment.
The bar on board served drinks, paying homage to inside jokes from the Askewniverse movies. Do they have inside jokes? I didn't think he was that kind of guy.
No.
Specialty cocktails included the Quick Stop Quencher, Blunt Man and Chronic Coolers, Mallrat Margaritas, Snoochie Mai Tais, and Boo Boo Kitty F asterisk UCKS. So what's letters meant to go in there? Kitty Flux? Kitty Frux?
The Boo Boo Kitty Flux.
Yeah. And here we can see some pictures of people on the Askewniverse cruise, the Cruise Askew. And contrary to my prediction, there are numerous women there.
There are more women than men.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I take it all back.
Take it all back.
Jay and Silent Bob are fictional characters, again, portrayed by Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, respectively. They appear in films, comics, and TV programs, all based in the fictional View Askewniverse. Saga began with the film Clerks, released in 1994, which centres around Jay and Silent Bob selling marijuana, bothering passers-by and causing trouble outside of a quick stop. It doesn't centre around them, they're side characters. And this just seems like this is written by AI.
Yeah, this does. This is the...
They appear in films, comics, and TV programmes. In the following years, the movies in the saga were released: Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2, Jay and Silent Bob Super Groovy Cartoon Movie, which I haven't seen,
No.
Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and Clerks 3. Now we have a picture of Kevin Smith doing what is commonly known as the finger up the ass face. Okay, Friday, February 23rd, we're getting started. Friday's activities began with open play street hockey on deck, so deck hockey, based on Dante and Randall's games of street hockey on the roof of the Quick Stop. Around 4 p.m, the Pearl pulled out to sea, leaving Miami behind for the open seas. The weather was beautiful, with sunny and 70-degree weather for the group photo that was taken with everyone on board the top deck as the ship set sail. Do you think the cast played in the game of hockey?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Didn't want to take any risks of Kevin Smith getting
They might have came out and...
cheered on.
Like started it or something.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
no.
And then bouncers were like, yeah.
And also, I don't know what actors... I only know my Jay and Silent Bob so far.
Dante and Randall.
They haven't come up in the review yet.
Okay,
I want to see it unfold.
Fair enough.
They're not there in that photo.
And here is the group photo with Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith on their knees, and there are hundreds of adoring fans in the background. After the group photo, Smith brought out the actors and hosts that were joining him on the cruise for the weekend. He gave an introduction of each person, how they fit into the View Askew universe.
This is what I'm saying. When you say actors from the View Askew, that could be anybody. That can be
Rosario Dawson. That could be his wife.
Could be the corpse of Stan Lee. I don't know what's going on.
The first formal event of the cruise was the Jay and Silent Bob Get Old podcast. The Jay and Silent Bob Get Old podcast started as a podcast about Jason's sobriety as a weekly check-in. At the time of the podcast on board the ship, he was 13 years, 7 months, and 3 weeks sober. He also said that there are... Do you want to do the maths? Holy shit! 13 plus 7 plus 3, 23.
It's been gone.
He also said that there are AA meetings on the boat and he will be attending them while on board during the cruise. Oh my god. Wow. Can you imagine the guy who fakes addiction in order to attend AA with Jason Mewes?
I just think it's funny that he's adding that at the same time they're flogging their boo-boo kitty fuck martinis and all this, you know?
Yeah, I relapsed.
I relapsed on a Mallrats margarita.
What is the slang for someone in AA? It's like a friend of Bob? Is it a friend of Silent Bob?
I don't know.
It's like, you know, people on the program are like friends of... I would love if Kevin Smith had like I don't know, it would be like Silent Spirits or something would be his version of Alcoholics Anonymous. Friends of Silent Bob. Kevin started off by saying that Sunday would be the 6th year anniversary of the heart attack he had that changed his life.
You don't celebrate that kind of shit.
Can you fucking imagine if you go on a cruise and you're like, woo, let's get this party started.
Right,
and one guy's like, yeah, I'm going to be hosting AA meetings. And then someone's like, yeah, this is the 6th year anniversary of me almost dying. And you're like, yeah, I paid thousands of dollars for this.
Woo!
And get your greasy movies burger. I will be having any because... yeah. And that he's very happy to have the opportunity to be on the cruise. Jason bought some levity as always, which is again an insane thing to say for someone who hasn't seen the movies until... Brought some levity as always to the conversation. He brought his trademark levity when he talked about his love of bath bombs and how he gets bummed out when travelling and there is only a shower. He also mentioned he is excited to be in Miami, where his favourite show, CSI Miami, was based.
Oh. He's just a giant kid though, isn't he? Like,
yeah.
The reviewer is right though. Any Smodcast or anything I've ever listened or watched, Kevin is insufferably boring and not funny. Like at least Mewes tries to have some fun. So yeah.
During the podcast at sea, every fucking word here is redundant. Yeah. Like, we know you're at sea. Kevin announced that he has been writing a new Jay and Silent Bob movie about a competing weed store opening across from their fictional store in Jersey. Yeah, no, that's... Anyway, weed. I'm quite excited to see this one because Kevin Smith's never written about weed before.
No, it's brand new territory.
Yeah. The mob is also involved for the first time in this movie. For the first time, a movie has been made about the mob. And let's see what these good fellas get up to when they meet Jay and Silent Bob. They did a cold read of a scene from the movie, which Jason had not seen before the cruise. It was very fun to see unpublished work being read live on board for the first time in front of a live audience. It was a continual reminder of the brilliance of Kevin Smith's writing chops.
Wow. Did Kevin write this review?
Later in the day, the live version of Edumacation podcast by Kevin Smith took place in the theatre. In an effort to get smarter, Kevin recruits entertainment producer and former writer Andy McElfresh for a weekly session of learning about the unknown. The podcast is presented in 4 sections: the SCI, the FI, so the Psi, the Phi, the Why, and the Bi. Honestly, can you imagine you signed up for a cruise and then you were in your second podcast of the day?
I was just going to say that. I was like, if we had a second podcast we had to record after this one, I'd kill myself. There's no fucking way that my entire day on a cruise is just going to be sitting there fucking speaking.
And that's to say nothing of the hundreds of people crammed into your office.
Oh yeah, of course.
Jesus.
How many does he have again?
Oh, so many. He has a one about being vegan with his daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you've been vegan less time than I have, you do not get to have a podcast about being vegan. Also, if you own a fast food chain which sells meat, you don't get to have a podcast about being vegan. In this particular episode, the duo talked about sharks, which is one of Kevin's biggest fears. So Andy gave him facts on the Megalodon as a reminder that sharks are below them on the boat. Again, seems like this is written by... yeah.
Absolutely.
Live music was playing in the boat atrium with Louser, L-O parenthesis U, Sir, and Telethon, gaining new fans who enjoyed the live performances.
You know a band's successful when you don't know how to say their name, don't you? Getting the big acts here. Looks like a Devo tribute by pictures.
Yeah. Would you take that gig, playing as a band on the Silent Bob cruise?
Depends if it's paid.
Oh, it'll be paid.
Oh, but it's you get a cruise out
and
with
Kevin
everybody,
Smith coin.
Kevin Smith coin, free movies, and a trip on a cruise.
And here's your copy of Kilroy Was Here, limited edition NFT. Out on the main deck at 7 p.m. We're not even at 7 p.m. yet. Time's fitting in our podcast. The Soul Asylum, led by singer Dave Pirner, played their biggest hits, including Black Gold. I met several superfans who joined the cruise just to see the band perform live during their 2 appearances throughout the weekend. No way. I don't care if you are like going on the Kevin Smith cruise just to see a band.
Yeah, and it's not. Again, I'm actually going to defend what I was slagging off before. The pensioners that go on the elderly prog cruises probably aren't going to see Yes Again.
Yeah.
So they will go and do all this. You will be able to go see these guys.
If these are going concern, you don't have to pay thousands of pounds.
It's exactly that. That's insane. Or a lie. That can't be true.
Okay, Brian O'Halloran, who played Dante in the Clerks movies, led his first pub crawl of the trip, where fans could sample beers across multiple bars on the ship, while Brian met everyone and told stories.
So he gets to ship his products,
yeah,
pun intended, and yeah, I get that.
Okay, we've not got another podcast, so okay. Saturday, February 24th. On Saturday, we arrived at the port of Nassau in the Bahamas. The islands were beautiful, but unfortunately, there was rain on and off throughout the day. We took an excursion through the ship and rode on a smaller transfer boat past houses belonging to some of the biggest celebrities in the world on Paradise Island. Can you imagine if Kevin Smith is pointing out, being like, yo, Steven Spielberg lives there, man.
Ben Affleck lives there, and Chris Rock lives there. Why don't you live there, Kevin?
Yeah. Step on the throttle. If Ben sees me outside his house again, I'm in big trouble. We landed on Pearl Island for a beach lunch and activity to swim with pigs. Don't make a joke here. On a nearby small island called Pig Beach, where dozens of swimming pigs live and play with tourists. We got to swim alongside them and interact with them for an hour.
Did the pigs do a podcast afterwards?
Well, I have some photos of the pigs there. Later in the day, once we were back on the Pearl, we attended a wine tasting with Trevor Fayram, who played Elias in the Clerks film series, and his wife, Renee Humphrey of Mallrats. Does Kevin Smith have like a dating app or something? Like, why is...
Once you're in the Askewverse, though, you have to stay in the Askewverse.
Yeah,
your
because
potential mates have to have been in one of my films.
Sampling 4 different wines with guests. The couples shared stories from their adventures together during the event in the Spinnaker Lodge. Renee works with her brother at his winery, Eric Kent Wine Cellars. Product placement here.
Everyone's just coming to ship their booze, aren't they? They are just like,
Yeah.
buy my beers, buy my wine.
Yeah. She hand-selected wines from the Norwegian collection for fans to sample during the tasting. And then head to AA. Oh, there is a guy in a hockey jersey. Fans on board could also shop in the custom gift shop for custom movie-themed souvenirs. Okay, then some crap. Crap. If you plan to shoplift, let us know. That evening, the cast of Mallrats met up to do a live script reading of the next version of the movie called Twilight of the Mallrats. Again, next version of the movie, sequel.
Yes.
What is commonly called a sequel. Kevin Smith, Jason Mewes, and co-stars Jason Lee, Renee Humphrey, and Ethan Suplee all participated in the reading. Other Askewniverse stars also helped out in the reading, including Brian O'Halloran, Jennifer Schwalbach-Smith, Jeff Anderson, and Ralph Garman.
Okay. I was going to say, Anderson hasn't popped up yet, so I didn't know if he was here or not.
Oh, we saw a picture.
Oh, did we? Oh, you scrolled. Yeah. Or in Jason Lee as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, Jason Lee. Oh, yeah, Jason Lee.
Co-stars Jason
Shit.
Lee. You can't do
I
all
thought he'd
that
be too big for the cruise.
Especially when he hasn't been pimped out and he's selling his wines or skateboards or something.
Yeah.
Like.
What would make this review for me is if they just dropped like a random detail, like the actor who played Smokey or whatever, like Ben Affleck, if they just revealed Ben Affleck was there and just glossed it over.
Ben something.
Yeah, exactly. Or you just saw him in the back of the shop.
There was
like,
other actors.
Kevin Smith, an unnamed actor.
And friends.
Audience members were also chosen to participate as characters in the reading as well. Honestly, life doesn't get any better than that. If you get picked to play Banky, that was Ben Affleck, wasn't it? Banksy. If you get to play Stan Lee in Twilight of the Mallrats.
I don't get it, but I do get it, because on the Twin Peaks cruise, when Mark Frost calls me up to read, I'm there, you know.
The movie followed the adult version of the original characters facing issues with their own children at the same mall years later as they prepare for their senior role. Wait for me to put my daughter into film. Again, it was amazing to hear a script that is unreleased with the original actors being a part of the reading. Kevin narrated the reading and noted how useful it was to work through the script in a live reading for edits as well. AKA, there were a lot of pauses without laughs.
Yeah. Got it.
Between live events, we also checked out...
Sorry to interrupt, but surely that is a terrible way when you're on hardcore fans.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Just yes, man. Like, you're not gonna...
Well, that's who he's just making the movie for at this point. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, you should have included another scene where Jay gets his dick out and tucks it between the legs and Goodbye Horses played. That we're still not tired of that yet.
But it's him explaining to the producers, but the people on the cruise loved it, guys. I don't know where it all went wrong.
Him opening night, just watching, like you hear a pin drop. It's like, I don't understand.
Every
people
single
who paid thousands of pounds to hear it, they loved it.
Yeah.
Between live events, we also checked out the Kevin Smith Museum that was located on Deck 7 midship. The space was set up to showcase Kevin's movie memorabilia that he has collected over the past several decades while making his films. There were costumes, original scripts, movie posters, and even the Jesus kite from Clerks 3. Holy shit! A prop from Clerks 3 was there? Wow! And so here we have... Is that...
Blunt Man in Chronic or something?
Yeah, but probably from the reboot, because that doesn't look like...
I don't know that.
That texture...
That looks like the reboot that you would do, like the Affleck Batman reboot, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a joke on that.
Yeah. And then some other stuff. Buddy Christ is there.
Told you, you got dog on my
Kinda
back.
Cool, yeah.
Didn't wait long.
Someone's costume from something. Hockey jersey, and I'm hoping that's like a Clerks 2 screen worn thing.
It kind of that's the thing though. A lot of, even going up there was a lot of them are just a shirt and pants.
Yeah,
because it's not, if you're not got movies, then what do you have to show? Everyone just wears normal clothes. Like,
holy shit, that's Justin Long in a tusk prosthetic.
Well, yeah, give me Tusk any day. Where's my tusks?
Or if they dropped the Johnny Depp is gee whatever.
Yeah,
That would be amazing.
Give me the live reading of that,
Johnny
please.
Depp posted the first episode of his podcast, Johnny Depp Innocent. We caught Roots of Mine performing in the atrium before dinner and jammed out to their reggae-style beats with fans who were back for more after catching their first performance on Friday night.
They've got nowhere else to go.
If you don't want to be in AA, then you're taking on Roots of Mine.
You go, hey, Overboard or the band.
The band's Green Trees and Something's Got to Give were featured on the Clerks 3 soundtrack.
There we go.
At 10 p.m, Brian O'Halloran led his second pub crawl. Jesus. While Jennifer Schwalbach and husband Kevin Smith led a large crowd in one of her favourite activities, Bird Bingo, in the theatre at 10:30 for a late night crowd. Yeah. Then Sunday, February 25th, late start I imagine after Bird Bingo. Sunday morning began... Oh, hello, the very opposite. Sunday morning began with a motivational walk with Ethan Suplee.
Yay.
The walk commenced with the motivational poem Invictus by Ernest Henley. 1 hour walk on deck 13 of the boat on the track for the fans to get moving and start the day.
That's rough, isn't it? He had nothing planned, did he? He was like, I'll walk.
I'll read you a poem, I guess.
Okay.
Throughout the morning, fans could go to autograph sessions with the actors on board for them to sign the cruise poster as provided by Sixth Man. Lucky fans who booked during the original pre-sale event also got the opportunity to have their photo taken with Jay and Silent Bob.
That's rare. You can't just go to any Comic-Con and get that, can you? That's a one-of-a-kind photo.
Yeah. Okay, how long would it take for you to bring up Vulgar?
Within minutes.
Oh, speaking of Vulgar, Joker 2.
Yes.
Another entry into the clown gets raped.
Yeah.
Pantheon.
Todd Phillips seen Vulgar. Confirmed. Brian O'Halloran for Joker 3. All I would speak about is fucking Vulgar.
At 1:30, I'm sorry for any new listeners who joined this episode just here. This is the Kevin Smith Cruise episode. Of like, the only people listening this far are people who have heard us ramble about all this stuff for previous hours on end. At 1:30, a Q&A session with Kevin Smith started. When asked about what his writing process is, he offered the advice of making pretend. Man doesn't want to give his secrets away there. He also announced that the next Cruise Askew will be happening in 2026. He talked about how fun it was to be on the cruise and that he hopes to cruise to Kansas City at some point. I thought Kansas City was landlocked. He would like the next cruise to be related to his horror movie Tusk.
Oh fuck, sign us up.
He would bring along the cast members of Yoga Hosers, which included his daughter in a starring role.
You had me and you lost me within 2 sentences.
You just say this is going to be the Kevin Smith's daughter cruise, because you are not getting Lily Rose Depp on a cruise with these people. No. That is not happening.
You probably won't even be able to get Justin Long.
The star of HBO's The Idol.
Yeah,
no, Justin Long as well, yeah. And Johnny Depp, unless his career takes a severe turn.
He's hosting the bar pub crawls.
Lino forever.
Yeah, no, you had me there. That's Tusk, my tickets in the basket waiting. It's Yoga Hosers in my door, but tickets out the basket, refund.
Kevin shared that the nature of Clerk 3 is autobiographical, as he's going to make any of his movies because of how close to home it hits for him.
Fuck off.
Kevin then took the time to talk about his heart attack and the amazing doctors that saved his life. His goal in life is to move forward and find joy. He told his daughter to put his face on t-shirts forever after he is gone.
What the fuck? And I don't think that's a joke. Because there is, literally, I'm looking at someone probably with a picture of his face on a t-shirt, you know?
Yeah. Like, you know that Woody Allen quote, I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it through not dying. I want to achieve immortality through t-shirts.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Kevin spent some time discussing mental health and how important it is to live in the now. You're on the Jay and Silent Bob cruise, ladies and gentlemen. So savour it, because you're not going to be here forever.
That's good on Mr. Smith, but in Vulgar. Right.
You can't control the past or the future. He had genuine, heartfelt responses to all of the questions asked of him. Except for the guy who asked about balls and told to go fuck himself.
He got left on the island, didn't he?
He also discussed the importance of his month-long hospital stay in the spring of 2023 when he had a mental health crisis. Riveting cruise. That's what I...
Wonderful.
He explained that he's not changed his approach on political correctness and that he hates when people get upset with his content. He emphasised that none of his movies are ever meant to harm anyone and they are all looking inward. He even brought up how Dogma was a love letter to spirituality, even though it also offended people. And here's a guy dressed up as the villain from Powerpuff Girls. Next up was the Plus One podcast, featuring Kevin Smith and Jen Schwalbach-Smith, who have been married for 24 years. They talked about how their life has been as a married couple, how Jen broke her hip in November, and their horrible experience on their first cruise together to Alaska.
That's miserable. That is miserable, man. Like, talk about something, guys. What's Chris Rock like, you know?
Here's a time we went on a horrible cruise. And you just know on the second Cruise Askew, they're going to be talking about how horrible the first one is.
This is the 1 year anniversary of her breaking her hip, you know? Like, oh.
During Amusing Stories with Jason Mewes, Jason shared funny stories from his own life with the audience in a stand-up format. In front of a microphone, which is recording, so it could also be a kind of podcast. Before he came on, he was preceded by comedians DK, Jake Rubel, and AJ Wilkerson, who have been touring with Jason on his stand-up comedy tour.
So, fair play there, because Kevin didn't step on Jason's thing. Like, Jason's a stand-up comedian, that's how he's kind of got away from acting. And
is he? Okay.
He's not good, but he got, you know, it's a bit like Steve-O.
Yeah,
he goes into like the stand-up. It's more storytelling, humour.
Yeah.
But I would expect that to be turned into a podcast, sit down with Kevin. So at least he's let him do what he does.
Yeah.
Because Kevin Smith couldn't do it.
Fat Man Beyond was next, a podcast with Kevin and Mark Bernardin. In the podcast, the pair covers current events in movies and comic books. They then participated in a Q&A session. When asked about who gets to see and make decisions on scripts, the audience was told that Scott is the first one who sees the script, and then Jordan or Liz read the script and tell Kevin if the script is feasible. Is that Scott Mosier?
Mosier's been on my brain the entire time here, because he's not in this fucking cruise, obviously.
Obviously not. The man has better things to be doing. He's got a viable career as a director.
So no, it can't be. He's been in my brain the entire time. Just waiting for him to, you know, last minute on Sunday, Mosier has
get him in for a Zoom or something.
Yeah.
Like, no, sorry Kev, too busy. Kevin noted before sailing in a Facebook and during the Q&A on board that the schedule was changing because he felt like the Clerks 3 script was just too depressing to end the cruise. Can you imagine how gutted you'd be if you were the world's biggest Clerks 3 fan?
Oh,
refund!
Yeah. Oh, fuck it. Just read the first film then, you know?
He made a pivot to another unreleased script and movie called Moose Jaws for the final script reading with the entire cast of actors on board and some key audience participation.
Is that his shitty Yoga Hosers trilogy?
Yeah, Canadian True North, whatever he calls it. It's Jaws, but with a moose.
But I said there you should just read Clerks 1, but you should actually, because the crowd would read along with it. You'd have that fan interaction. People could have props and recite their favourite scenes and stuff. Like, no, here's an unreleased thing that no one will buy because Weinstein's in jail. Like, no, it's not.
Well, also, can you think of any other writer-director who would read the script to 2 of their future movies? Just like, people keep that like lock and key. Like, if Christopher Nolan is like, oh yes, I was thinking that maybe the hotly anticipated Tom Holland and Matt Damon movie, I'm just going to read the script to people on the cruise, so we'll have spoilers out there in the open. And
I think he's the kind, and I could be totally wrong here, but he strikes me as a screenwriter that he probably has 90,000 Clerks 3. I don't think he edits and refines. I don't think it's like Gore Vidal. I'm going
it's not
over
like
I did this one. This
like,
one got cancelled. Next one. We just start again. We start again.
I became vegan in the interim, so we're going to write one where Silent Bob is vegan now, and that's.
And a Scott Mosier could just say we could change it. And he would no. We start again. We start again. It's
the thing with iterations. You can build and improve, but if you start from scratch the whole time, then you just end up with 100 first drafts.
That is pretty much. I would say post-millennium Kevin Smith in a nutshell, but it's all first drafts. So yeah, I would be annoyed if I was a fan. I'm trying to think of it as something similar to us. If I'm going on the Rennie Harlan cruise, right? Yeah. I don't want the unreleased stuff. Read Die Hard 2.
You want the classics.
Give me Die Hard 2.
Yeah. You want to be Bruce Willis
Yes,
in Die Hard.
I'm Franco Nero.
Moose Jaws is set at a remote Canadian summer camp where a giant man-eating moose is on the loose and chaos ensues for the camp staff and the town council. The night ended with a DJ session run by Jeff Anderson to close out the Cruise Askew in epic fashion.
That was his thing.
Overall...
Which would have been fun. Like a DJ set by someone you're going for. If you had a drink, it's the last night, that's the party.
Yeah, you want to...
Sobriety is over, AA meetings are over, let's go party with Jeff.
You want to have a good time. You don't want to walk around a racetrack hearing Invictus. Yeah.
And that's it, Jeff's done no podcasts. He's done no Q&As. He's just like, I'll come and do a DJ set and on the last night. Good on you.
Overall, this was an amazing first year experience for fans and participants. You could tell that Kevin Smith and all the actors were genuinely happy to be on board and deliver the best possible unique experience for fans. Smith was truly everywhere every day, delivering hour after hour live entertainment.
Half of it was sitting down, you know. Sitting down speaking to a mic.
Unparalleled showman. He did more podcasts than some people have done in their entire life.
Very true.
It's just, it's like watching Lenny Bruce or something. Truly, just how does he do it? It was a dream come true for the Skewniverse fans to get up close and personal experiences at sea for these 3 days. We would highly recommend this cruise when it comes back in 2026 for any Jay and Silent Bob fan.
Wow.
So there you go.
Loved it. I didn't expect that. It's what the obvious stuff to me though is, I mean I should have expected podcast.
Yeah.
But you're thinking, if it was again something we're into, you'd want to watch a movie.
Yeah.
At the very fucking least.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith should pick a movie.
Yeah.
Even if it's not his own, just my favourite movie with all my fans. I'm going to watch it with
Yeah,
everyone, and we'll have a little talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
We'll do a podcast about it afterwards. So you think you'd have that? You think you'd have like costume contests or lookalikes or which would be done by the actors?
Who can do the best Goodbye Horses,
Yes, exactly.
Buffalo Bill.
Exactly, and Jason Mewes will pick that one, so that was his character. Jeff Anderson, you don't even need to stand up, just pick the best, fucking Dante or whatever, Randall. Yeah, like, all the obvious shit is not there.
Yeah.
It's sobriety and podcasts, and Brian O'Halloran going around getting pissed. Which is fine, but that is very underwhelming. I get, that's not even a real hardcore fan, that's a born again fan, and they loved it, so each to their own. But
I'm delighted because I could not ask for any more than a view that Askew, like a Cruise Askew review. Oh, that's a tongue twister. I could not ask for any more than a Cruise Askew review from an AI who didn't know any of his movies.
Kevin Smith fed ChatGPT, make a review about these movies and they love my cruise.
Because a fan would be like, they'd be too close to it, and they'd be like, oh, it was amazing. But someone who you can tell is just like, it's like how all the NFT bros got into him just because they were like, oh, we don't know who this guy is beyond the fact that he's like in the NFT space. And
I don't, I mean, it was a good turnout though.
Yeah.
For me, it's what makes it most funny in my head is if no one turned out, right?
But that's not going to happen.
And they had to go and do their podcast live to nobody.
Yeah.
See, Jeff Anderson's miserable and wants to go home. There's a film in there for myself. But people want to go.
No, I think it's deeply fun. It's deeply more funny to think of them interacting with the types of people that go on the cruise. I want this to be a sellout.
Everything's at a distance.
I want there to be a competing cruise of like on the lifeboat, just tagging along.
Because it's a Q&A all the time. The interaction is I'm on the stage talking. You are down there. Away from me. Like,
excuse me, are you forgetting Bird Bingo? You don't think they were mingling during Bird Bingo?
No. Jennifer doesn't let him speak during her turn.
If you pay $500, you can get a photo with me. But yeah, I'll hang out during Bird Bingo. Anyway, that was amazing.
That was a ride.
Another update for you is I saw the 4:30 movie.
Yes, you did.
And we've spoken a little bit about that off mic. But another detail I have to share with you. So the 4:30 movie is Kevin Smith's latest film, kind of autobiographical, about him going on a date with someone to a movie theatre in New Jersey, and the actor who plays Kevin Smith, the younger version, is his daughter's boyfriend, who also plays the new Silent Bob in Clerks 3.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's kind of messed up. Once can maybe be forgiven, But if your go-to surrogate
Wait.
for yourself is your daughter's boyfriend, I think that is somewhat Freudian.
I mean, it is. But this is what we were talking about before. It's once you're in the Askewverse, your
But
options
find
are
a different
limited.
role for him. He could have played. He could have played the
You
best
want me
friend.
to write more roles, right? I've already
No, because
wrote
there are
Jason.
people in it. You can cast him in 19 million of the existing
But it is
roles,
Freud.
just not the one that is you.
Yeah, but it's only going to get more Freudian as well. Like,
Well-
as the films go on with the
Well,
daughter.
well. I have some news for you because Harley Quinn Smith is in the 4:30 movie, and she is in one of the fake trailers for a movie which is called something like Nun Hooker, about a nun who keeps the orphanage running by being a prostitute. And I'm like, this is the second time that you have cast your daughter as a sex worker. And in this trailer, which is just devoted to it's like I said, the problem with these fake trailers is that they're not trailers, they're just like chunks from the film, and they're way too long. And so I'm like, you've just made like an entire self-contained project about you wanting to fuck your daughter.
Yep.
Every role his daughter has played since she has been over 18. I think in Jane Silent Bob reboot, she talks about how much she wants to suck Chris Hemsworth's cock. In the Halloween movie, she plays like a prostitute. In this, she plays like an actor playing a prostitute. I'm like, you transparently want to fuck your daughter more than you want to fuck your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well, yeah. I mean, he did for a long time, because that's the Clerks 2 thing I talk about with his wife and things. Like, he did overly sexualize her for a long time.
yeah, and we know like the Playboy shoot he directed with his wife. We know the infamous like taint tweets about his wife. But I'm like, she's fallen to the wayside now of like, I haven't seen this much lust in anything compared to what he has for Harley Quinn.
No.
And I'm like, how, the fact that again, she's named after a cartoon that her dad wants to fuck.
Exactly.
I'm like, we joked about how he said that his advertising for the Jersey Girl DVD was, buy this DVD so I have enough money to keep my sexy wife happy. His future thing is going to be like, come on the next cruise so I have enough money to pay for therapy for my sexy daughter.
Yeah, pretty much. And also his daughter is, I'm sure they have an age that she doesn't really need to be doing podcasts for her dad, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
like Lily Rose ain't doing podcasts with Johnny, you know? I don't know, I thought they should have flew the nest by now.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, on a man
But
who,
I have also seen her act, and there's no way that she is flying the nest.
Tarantino doesn't work frequently enough
No.
for her to get any
No.
other roles. It's just, like, I don't know, it's deeply funny for a man who, like, you can predict the tropes of, that now a scene which exists solely for him to masturbate over his daughter has now become like okay, when's that gonna arrive? I love how people are like, oh, Tarantino's such a pervert, that man with his foot fetish. She's like, well, I present to you the man who wants to fuck his own child.
I can't wait to clip this when we get him on the podcast. As always, just pretend. Hope they don't listen to it. But
yeah, like, I don't know, if you're his daughter, how are you gonna react when he presents the latest script? You're like, oh, cool, I'm a prostitute again,
It's
Dad.
because
That's
it's make
fun.
pretend. He said that when he's writing. It's all make pretend. None of this is real.
This is a world in which, if I had the money, I could pay her to fuck my daughter. And I'd also be funding the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And helping out some sick kids. Well,
Full circle.
we saw in his pilot in which the porn star wants to fuck him.
Oh, fuck,
Like,
I forgot
remember
we watched
that?
that shit I found.
Kevin Smith project just exists to
Oh,
fulfill
man.
creative fantasies.
What's
They're
it called
just-
again? It's weed one, isn't it?
Weed. It's a weed pun,
It's a
isn't
weed
it?
pun. The one, yeah. It's
The weed store. It's
Some-
not the 4:30 movie is, yeah, weedification, weediforn. Anyway. Okay, so speaking about political correctness, I have another story here for you. Which, did you hear about this? Mrs. Brown's Boys star sorry for clumsy racial joke.
no. Is this new?
This is
This is
15th
breaking-
of October,
Okay.
so it is being resolved
Okay,
since
okay.
then.
No,
This
I
is filming. So we covered Mrs. Brown's Boys the movie on a recent-ish episode. And so this was like a story. The filming of the latest Mrs. Brown's Boys Christmas special was put on hold because of a controversy. Brendan O'Carroll, the Irish star of BBC One sitcom Mrs. Brown's Boys, has apologised for making a clumsy joke where a racial term was implied during rehearsals for the series' upcoming Christmas special. BBC temporarily suspended production of the series and launched an investigation, with the show now going ahead as planned.
Okay.
So also apparently from other reports I've heard that this suspension resulted in a black member of the crew quitting the show.
Ooh.
And then the BBC being like, on you go, Brendan, no problems here.
Oh, wow.
O'Carroll, who's also the show's creator, said he made a clumsy attempt at a joke during a read-through of the scripts where he was in character as Agnes Brown. It backfired and caused offence, which I deeply regret, of which I have apologised. Those present were said to have been left shocked by the slur. The Mirror said, adding, they flagged it with the BBC afterwards. The corporation said it acted immediately. BBC statement there, we're against racism. So nothing really juicy from here apart from this quote. O'Carroll said the success of the show has been at least in part down to an audience that has felt left behind as TV comedy has evolved and changed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a lovely thing to say about your fans, is this is where the people who don't get to hear racial slurs on TV anymore.
People that are stuck in the past,
yeah, exactly,
you know,
yeah.
outdated.
Bigots.
Yeah, bigots. Yeah, that's not very... I want to know that. Do you know what the slur is? You don't have to say.
I know exactly what it is. One of them say to her, oh, well, Mammy, you've got to call a spade a spade. And he says, I don't call a spade, I call a spade. And he was in the process of saying the N-word when he gets cut off.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
So about as horrendous as you can possibly imagine.
Yeah. Okay, because I didn't think that. I was trying to...
You thought it was going to be some weird, like, super niche,
no,
like,
well, you know,
Boris Johnson and Pickaninnies, or like...
That's exactly it. Gollywog or something.
Yeah,
or
yeah, you would think,
like
yeah.
Or some of these other sort of lesser slurs that are still abhorrent, but like...
Yeah.
That you could maybe have... That's when it said implied.
That's an old-timey...
That's what I was thinking. I was like, yeah.
Mrs. Brown drops the N-word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Which should be the headline.
That is shocking. Yeah, like, not surprising. So you got away with it and it's all fine?
Yep. No consequences for Mrs. Brown, which is just, like, absolutely fucking horrendous. Just, like, which just signifies, like, how out of touch and, like, how she has no empathy for anyone outside her. And people are always like, oh, well, actually, Brendan O'Carroll's a member of Mensa, so he's actually very intelligent. Yeah. And it's like... If you think at all that is like an acceptable thing,
it's not tough.
How just devoid of any kind of compassion are you if you can be like, oh yeah, that's probably a cool little bit.
Exactly, and that's it. Like, Mensa means fuck all, does it? Like, you can do like IQ tests, like add and subtraction. Doesn't make a difference to actual intelligence and being able to not say racist slurs.
Because he's been in hot water in the past because of the Tyler Perry thing.
But this is down to Beeb. As well, this is the BBC.
This is horrendous from them
because if they had any fucking backbone, they'd do something.
But
hang us. If it gets record views in the numbers, that's going to be their
well,
like
those thousands of bigots who've been left behind.
That's where they're going to find it like validation that it's okay that it can carry on because it's the biggest fucking viewed thing in the UK.
Who among us has not said the N-word in a read through for Can you imagine if the Kevin Smith table it was like Kevin Smith cruise cancelled after he dropped
the Tarantino cruise? I expected it.
Oh yeah, of course. Tarantino does exceptional scouting of the audience and like, we're gonna cast you as this role.
Let me see your feet. So yeah, that's shocking, but not surprised.
Yeah, it's just genuinely horrendous. Like I said, with the Tyler Perry thing, where they had Mrs. Brown was on the Medea, and they spoke about like Tyler Perry being on one of the Mrs. Brown's boys. He's like, oh, we've never had anyone of his skin color on here, and you're like you don't have to pay any attention to these things to tell that Mrs. Brown does not have a progressive attitude towards fucking anything.
Nope.
But as Mrs. Brown hater-in-chief, the idea that he would say the N-word in a rehearsal is still beyond my wildest imagination. And the fact that the BBC could then just be like, okay, well, we've investigated this thoroughly and we've concluded that, boys will be boys, so on we go.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucks. Genuinely sucks.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the crew.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't want to make light of this on our comedy podcast. But yeah, it's like, it's one of those things where like I'm just like, yeah, deeply angry that like a low paid crew member has lost their job out of this principle, and the BBC hasn't had the solidarity to be like, oh hey, maybe you shouldn't be the one that's leaving here. Maybe you're not the problem. But yeah, just fucking sucks.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
I better not be the last news to end the podcast, honestly.
Well, that's it.
I
don't know.
Cruise and then just
I don't know.
Head first into the depression of crew members losing their work.
Okay, let's get back to the cruise, because they're having one in 2026.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of time to save up some money. Me and you need to do a Watching Worst Films special from the Cruise Askew.
We have to do it during a smodcast though. Like in the audience, we set up.
Sir, are you doing your own podcast in the audience?
Keep it down a bit.
Listeners say that's the best audio quality they've ever had.
Then I'm all aboard.
Yeah. Okay.
If I can turn this into a performance art and I can do something out of it, I'm there.
Bob Samuda would be
Bob
proud.
Samuda's coming with us.
So there we go. That is the end of another episode.
Yeah.
So thank you if you're still bearing with us after all of this time. Been a long gap since our last episode.
It has.
I didn't cover, like, I guess should cover that off the top. You been up to anything in the past?
Oh no. Waiting patiently for the next episode. You know?
So thank you for listening. I'm going to attempt to conjure up the social info from the reservoirs of my brain. You can follow us on social media, where we are Watching Worst on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You can contact us, and this is, well, I think might be wrong, watchingworstfilms@gmail.com. Muscle
like
memory on that
feel
sounds
like that's
right.
right.
So,
if not, Mr. Black. Like, I'll dub over it.
So please get in touch with us.
Absolutely.
If you have any comments, if you've been on the Cruise Askew, you've seen number 23, if you've witnessed the number 23 appear in your life, if you have any suggestions for future specials, and we're going to be back with Saturday night for probably our next episode.
Absolutely,
Realistically,
it's going to be my takeover. Unless we watch season 23 of SNL, then absolutely we're going to Saturday night.
But if there's anything else you want to hear us talk about, then get in touch. And yeah, hope all our listeners are well.
Yeah, I hope you're all well.
Yeah, I forgot how to do a sign off.
Yeah, no.
Bye.
See you next time.